This is David Hodge from Canada.
So my name is Dave Hodge. My parents are Bill and Sarah, and I think most of you guys know as well. And this place and little guy has been looking after us, and ever since we left 12 years ago, you guys looked after us. And Catherine had to come back for surgery earlier in 2025, or later in 2025, and you guys took a special offering in December, and yeah, that just meant a lot to us, and so we really appreciate that, and you guys have just really, yeah, it's even just a special treat to sneak another little service in this Sunday morning and get to be here. So we say thank you for that, and we have a 5-minute summary video we'll start with, and then I'll give some updates.
2025 was a great year for our family and ministry in Nkoma, Malawi. The family medicine department continues to grow. Early this year, we welcomed the Siebold family. Dr. Erica Siebold is an American family medicine physician who has joined the department as faculty. In addition to Erica, Dr. Ian Matandiga has really grown into his role as a faculty member and research supervisor, and has been instrumental in teaching our Malawian medical students and coordinating their rotations. We have also welcomed another graduate, Dr. Sarah Msimuko. Right now, we have 6 family medicine residents, and we have completed building all the resident houses and faculty houses just in the past month. The pediatrics ward has been running faithfully, as well as our neonatal unit and the weekly pediatrics clinic. The infant formula program has also grown, with now about 30 to 33 kids in it at any one time, due to hunger levels and new orphans who have joined. Our neonatal charge nurse, Agnes, has a few words to say about it.
I want to explain to you how the lactogen, the formula, has been so helpful to our patients or clients in our unit. So this help has been really great. We've been being supported with this initiative. Why we do this is because the mothers, most of them don't produce enough milk for the babies. So it's like this because most of the times mothers are coming from not well-to-do areas whereby they are failing to feed themselves, and so most of them produce a little or sometimes no milk at all. And if they produce, most of the times it doesn't have the much needed calories that we need for the babies to grow or gain weight. And so because of that, we've been receiving this support of lactogen to the mothers. So we do everything for the mothers to produce milk. We encourage them to take much fruits, to eat balanced diet, but as I said, it's really hard for them to get the balanced diet because they don't have much. And also whenever we resort to maybe them buying the formula, it's so expensive for them to buy even one tin. And so with this help, it has been really, and it's really helpful for the mothers. We've seen a lot of babies survive, and it has really helped to reduce the neonatal deaths that occur because of malnutrition for the neonates.
I like to encourage parents to read the Bible to their children. For the last 10 years, every 3-year-old at our local school has been given a children's Bible for their parents to read to them. Another community group is also teaching other parents the value of reading to their kids. Some of these parents have started Bible clubs for their neighbors as well. In addition to Bibles, I also help local theology students with theological books and materials. I also help with Young Life. We go and spend time with teenagers so that they will spend time with Jesus. Former members become leaders and role models for new teens to see a positive influence and a better way to live.
And even as we are preaching the gospel about Jesus Christ to fellow youth, to fellow readers, maybe whereby now they have been able to know, to understand the story of Jesus Christ, everything else, including the life, the birth, up to the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So with that now, our Young Life really changed everyone's life here at Nkoma, including myself.
I also help with Veritas. Hear from the National Director about the benefits of the program.
We target untrained leaders, leaders that are always preaching, but they have not had seminary training anywhere. So we feel we need to provide training for them. We focus on Bible interpretation, that is understanding the Bible, applying the Bible in our sphere of life, but also communicating the Bible through preaching, Bible studies, discipleship programs, and counseling sessions. So it's more of spiritual growth, mentorship, but also for preaching for those that are lay leaders in Malawi as well as in some over 10 countries in Southern Africa.
As a family, we are halfway into our 12th year in Malawi, and we really enjoyed a family furlough to the US this past summer, where we visited friends, family, churches, our sending agency, summer camps, and more. Charlotte and Evelyn were both baptized in our Florida home church, which was really special. Char, Evie, and Noelle are still schooling at our home with their wonderful Malawian teacher. We're so grateful to all of you for your love, financial support, and prayers, and as a family, we are really looking forward to serving God and growing in Christ in 2026.
So that the mountain on the end, that's just,
2025 was a
it's right in our backyard. So this is our backyard, maybe 15 minutes from our house. So it's, we're not always suffering, you know, like we have it pretty great in that sense of, I say we live right next to a national park. It's just, there's people everywhere. Sometimes you're walking in the woods and a little kid in the tree will be like, hello. But yeah, it's been fantastic. And I think a lot of you guys know, but in a year from May, so a year and a couple weeks, we'll be transitioning back to living back in Brevard County. So there's, the handover process is going very well and we have a clear plan, but there's a lot of, we probably need to go through the emotional kind of like, okay, we're leaving this place, and you guys that came from Tennessee or have moved from other areas, you guys know what it's like to have joys from one place, and now you know like there's really beauty where you're going, but like you will always not get to have that every day. And so those are the things we're kind of thinking through of like, okay, this is our last this is the last this, and last that, and it's just been fantastic to sort of raise a family, grow them up, and yeah, over there it's been great. So my wife is a family medicine physician, and when she started there, she started working in the peds ward. And one of the things that was like very difficult was they didn't have the technology to save kids the way you could here. And so all the time kids would pass away. And so it just, you know, you could save so many lives, but like at the same time you're having to see, you know, each couple weeks, like kids pass away that wouldn't pass away if you were working in an American setting. But 2 years ago, an Austrian family moved and they helped set up an ICU at the hospital. And that intensive care unit's 3 beds, and for the people that could be in that unit, it gave some extra care. And so you started seeing more people with cerebral malaria, severe diabetes, like poisoning. The poisoning comes from the food, so people will grow food once a year, and then you actually have to put poison on it, and it stays bad for a few months, but it keeps it from having all the weevils and stuff going into the food. But if you accidentally go into the wrong batch, that's when you can cause like poisoning. And so we have quite a few people die each year from like the poisoning. But some of those people in this ICU can survive with that. And so it's been, you know, when you did 10 years of no one surviving with those things to now some people are, it's been such a like an uplift. But about a month ago, there was a 7-year-old boy that just like had serious heart failure. And so they put him in the ICU, and at the end of an overnight call for Catherine, he just went heart arrest, you know, like totally dead on the monitor. And, but in the ICU they have the, you know, like things to shock it. And so the team gets around and Catherine goes, and then she pushes the wrong button. But that's okay, because it was like real quick to be like, oh, here's the right button. And she punched the kid, and he just popped right back, you know, from dead to just like fully alive. And then within an hour, he's bossing all the people around, like, open that window, I want this, I need a samosa. And you'll take some bossing when you know, have a kid that went from like being dead to like fully alive. The crazy part is we had a cardiologist that was rotating that month at the hospital, and the heart went from like not good to it looks like fully recovered. And you know, it's funny, like medical, sometimes things are out of the ordinary, so you're just cautious to just call everything a miracle. But they're in rounds, and they're like, you know, this seems unusual. Someone goes, we can just say it probably was a miracle. You know, we're allowed to give like credit into this. So yeah, I think those moments are just such an uplift. And here, Catherine had a way to describe it, so I'll do it in her words because I say it otherwise. She said, my heart sings with a noble theme. My tongue is the pen of a ready writer, from Psalms 45:1. When I tell you that I've been floating on cloud 9, I'm not exaggerating. I cannot believe the kindness of the Lord to allow me to be present in the first experience of such a resuscitation. So they had never had it where they could like shock people back to life. It had felt like a healing balm over my soul that has been battered for years with helplessness while hearing the screams of grief of so many mothers replaying in my ears. To hear our hospital to be able to make these advances and to have hope for better outcomes is such an answer to prayer to both me and our patients. Praise the Lord. So, yeah, so I think it's funny, people get there, you know, and then within 6 months they're like, will there ever be improvements? You know, like, will it just be the way it is now forever? Because the comparison, I think the gap will continue to get bigger from like wealthy countries to like poorer countries, because it's just like wealthy countries get so much new tech that it's like that's the outpace. But places that are like the poorest in the world still see growth and still see improvement. And so like for us, we're like, man, you don't even realize, like when we came here, there was no Malawian doctors like at the hospital. And now there's like a training program with 6 residents, about to be 8 residents a time, a whole surgical program that had, you know, we had 0 surgeons, and now we have 6 surgical residents too, you know, 5 surgeons that are faculty. Like the growth is just so much. You just, when you first get here, you don't see it, and it'll take time for you to like see kind of that growing and that thing. So, but for us, one of our big prayers has been for multiple years is like, we knew down the road we didn't want to send our kids to boarding school, and so we knew the time was coming that we would come back to the States. And so we were like, we know some of these students will graduate and they can help run the program, but it'd be really nice to still have another missionary in family medicine. And that family you saw in the front of the video, they moved a year and a half ago, and they've just been fantastic. And so, and they want to be there for, who knows, 5, 10, 15, you know, we'll see how many years, but they definitely want to be there for a while. And so it's been a lot nicer for the transition of the program. And yeah, it just feels really good at that handoff. And we had so much of like prayer and wait was the answer, but like to be able to have it be yes before we left, to have someone that's a nice bridge has been such an answer. And yeah, so it makes it, because it's, you know, you go from 0 doctors to this full thing. I mean, they built, I think, 16 resident houses and 3 faculty houses, which is crazy for the 2 training programs. And it has so much like momentum that you're just like, we just want to keep that going and allow that to go. And so, and some of these students that are like doctors that are in training for family medicine, they come from like amazing stories. Like one of the girls did her medical school in China, so she had to learn like Mandarin to just even do school from day 1. And that, like, to me, I'm like, man, how do you go from like no Mandarin to like medical school Mandarin? Like, yeah. And then another one was one of the new, so there's 2 students that graduated and became faculty. Another one did her medical school in Russia. And she actually married a Kenyan guy, so they speak Russian to each other because that's how they, like, that's their mutual language. And, but when she was in Russia, the hospital got firebombed, or not the hospital, sorry, their dormitory. So there was people that didn't like immigrants coming to go to the medical school. And so they barricaded the doors from the bottom and lit the whole place on fire. So she had to, her roommates were scared to come out the window, so she had to push them off from like the 4th floor. And then she just jumped out the like window. And when she landed, thankfully she didn't die. Her 2 roommates broke their backs, but her hand got so sliced up that she had to be in the hospital for 6 months with like all the hand surgeries. But she used that time to like learn Russian and get better. And you meet these people that are just like, have these incredible stories. They love Jesus, and they just, yeah, are the future of the country's medical system. And so, yeah, we're really excited to see where they go. And even Catherine's first graduate that got put on as faculty, he was really helpful. His name's Patrick. But then like another NGO wanted him at another hospital. And so that we say like they poached him, and they poached him a little early. So we were sad at the moment because it meant Catherine was shorthanded before the other people were able to join the staff. But they poached him to like a Muslim area. And so like now he can be a light, and his wife even converted from Islam as a child. And so they can, you know, it's a better light where they went. And so it's like, even though it like made work harder in the short term and the long term, it's a real like great thing. So that's where sometimes it's like, you're short-sighted of like, okay, this is what makes my life easier in the moment versus like what's God doing at all these different areas and different places. So yeah, some of those things have just been really nice to look back and see like, this is great. So for me, Young Life has just been nice because like when you've been 10 years, you just get to see people start families, start getting married. And I think 2 weeks ago I was at an engagement ceremony and the mom came over and she goes, we just really love what this club is doing for these young people. Like our daughter has like gained so much. And those are the moments where it's like easy to go back to work the next day, because you have the other kid that won't even answer the phone, won't come to anything. And so it's like those moments you're just like, yes. You get to have. And so, but as the kids are kind of getting older, the goal is to get them into regular church as much as possible, because like sometimes youth groups can be something that kids will do because they're more fun, but being part of a regular church is not necessarily that. And so I've been happy, like the local church's Bible studies, which is the other program I help out with, I'm like, hey, let's stop doing Young Life. Why don't you guys go to this one? Like this is where you should go. Even though they were leaders, so it kind of like makes it harder to have volunteers, but it's like in my head, I'm like the long-term success for these people is getting plugged into the local church and being involved. And so, so that has, so far it's working great, and I hope that sort of symmetry kind of goes the same. In fact, I actually see, because most of the Young Life staff in the country are in the cities, probably that transition is going to look like just turning to the church youth group or maybe another like youth group organization rather than trying to keep it, because I feel like I was able to kind of be the glue for a rural area, whereas transportation has gotten expensive, but it's always even like decently expensive to go like an hour on a bus. And so me being away, I think it's hard to maintain the same thing, whereas the local groups that have it, I feel like we can transition into that like much easier and like, much better. So, but we had this last 2 months a volunteer from the United States that had done Young Life. His wife was actually working at the hospital, so he wasn't even coming for Young Life, but I was like, you did Young Life? Like, come, But he had never read like a full letter before or a full book of the Bible in like one setting. I go, well, that's what we're gonna do first. And I was like, you pick whatever you want. And he's like, well, I want to study Romans. I was like, okay. I even printed it out for him. I took out all the verse numbers. If you've never on your phone, on the like Bible app, you can just like delete the verse numbers. And if you're reading quickly, it's a really nice way to like make it feel like a newspaper or normal text. And it took 5 days in a row. Like I made sure we hung out every day. I'd ask him, do you read it? Do you read it? No. And then like finally he read like half of it. And I was like, well, let's just sit down and you're just gonna read it. And after that, it was really cool to see like the Jew-Gentile like stuff. He could just really connect some dots that when you're just reading a passage, just doing bite-sized theology, you're just not connecting it the same way. So, and even Pastor Jim, they came to visit, I think like a year and a half ago. And they mentioned this program, I don't know if it's a program, but just an idea of read the whole Bible in 3 months. So, and the goal there is like, basically that means all you're consuming is the Bible. Like if you're gonna do it in 3 months, like you're in the car, audio Bible. If you're sitting at home, like not catching up on updates, you're just like, okay, you're reading, it's a lot. But man, like after that 3 months, it really was like, I had read through a lot, but like doing it that fast was helpful. So I don't want to put like a legalistic like expectation, but if you've never done something like that and you're interested, it was nice. So the other part though of the Bible interpretation program is all about going slow too. So like you want to go read the whole thing and read in the broader context, but you also want to kind of go slow. And so just taking the passage, having it printed out, being able to make markings, and allowing people to play with it. Because even over there, people are just using the phone and saying, tell me what I should preach on this. Because now it's not even someone else's like preaching. It's the self-generated preaching that no one would even know, Like it's just like a new message. And it can be really good stuff, but if you don't know how to read it for yourself and it's always secondary, well then how do you even catch errors? In fact, some of this stuff too will, if they know you like a certain thing, it might push to a certain problem too. it could push to like good things too. So we've always thought like the program has been so good at like help people to be able to read for themselves. Like don't just make it where they're just passive listeners, make them active, because so many people are not trained. And so they don't have the benefit of even having like a good Bible study. And so having people learning to train that way. Because you'll have, sometimes there's a lot of bivocational people that will have a small congregation, but then a lot of the church we're at, they're like, no, the pastors need to be paid. But that means you have 2,000 people to one pastor at a minimum. So like, because if someone's making $2 a day to be able to like have extra to pay a pastor's salary, that's how many people you need. Well, 2,000 people don't sit in a building. What happens is you've got 400 people in one building, and then everyone else is these satellite churches. And they're still bivocational then, like elders. And so for them to be trained, that's really important and really helpful. And so, yeah, over the last 20 years, they've trained like over a couple thousand people. And so like, it really improves things little by little. It doesn't, I joke with people, I go, it doesn't fix the problems you see on the shelves, or like, to me, it makes huge improvements at small levels all the time. But like, if you're like, will this fix the big problems? If you walk in a bookstore and see prosperity theology, I was like, those books are going to be there in 10 years probably, because like, that also is growing at a different pace. And so it's not about fixing all the problems of the national scale as much as like trying to improve the people that you have time to be in connection with and stuff like that. So I saw you guys, it's so lovely you guys pray for us and have our newsletters on there. And so the most recent one, when we first got to Malawi, someone had been involved with prisons and they were like, hey, come check this out. And I went with them, but it was an hour away at the closest prison. And I just thought, you know, it needs to be the local church. It needs to be whoever's right there. So it just kind of was on the back burner, but like part of like prayer to think about like, hey, what if that local church could do it, that'd be sweet. And then I was at like a facilitator training, and I met someone that was right there at that local church. And he's like, he just gave a prayer request. He goes, you know, at the prison, they can't afford the books because they're in prison. We had someone that was a manager at the local hospital. She paid for the books the first time, but she's moved away. And so we just need to figure out a way to pay for the books. And in my head, I was like, oh man, your prayer request is answering my prayer I've had for so long. So that was sort of my entryway into like being able to like provide the books and meeting these people. But then it wasn't just the prisoners taking the class. The clinician, the bus driver, the other chaplain, they also took the class. And then now they want to teach the class. And so when that chaplain got transferred, so now they're getting to teach at multiple prisons. And so that's when we're like, oh man, how could we even expand that further? You know, like what would that look like? But it's like that original thought of like, prayer is probably the best avenue right now. And so there was another person that ran a hotel with her husband, and she just already had a prison ministry, but then she took the class at her local church. And so when we heard about her, we're like, yes, go. And so she's even in 5 different prisons in the South. And then one of the graduates of the original prison, he's like freed from prison, and now he's becoming a teacher. And so that's also like, oh man, this is great. And then something that the Veritas program has done, but Malawi has never been able to partake, is 4-credit classes. And the reason the 4-credit was hard, part was technology, but part of it was just the academics that people are coming into the course with, their ability to write, their ability to read. Some of that, there's PhD people, like the people that's the director, he's a brilliant like person, but like the average person in the course, their reading and writing ability may not be up at a college level. But they're like, man, this has been in the country for 20 years. Why don't we do it? We'll do a pilot program where we just like are giving them the skills at first to like make those academic skills get higher, but then let's push it to do it. It also helped, there was another person getting his PhD that was willing to like oversee the program. And I think I mentioned before, we were able to get Starlink for it, and that has been a big boom for the virtual communication. And so Starlink is never gonna be widespread in a poor country because it has a certain cost. But when you're doing a big program, it's actually cheaper than the local stuff. And, but man, it makes, you know, we would go from when we moved to the country to, you had to save your email on a like document, because when you'd hit send, it would drop. Like the internet was so low. And even our friends, when we moved there, said in 2008, you wouldn't even like have internet at your house. You would send someone to the city. They would go to an internet cafe, log into your email, print out your emails, and then respond to the emails that you had sent, you know, like old school secretary. But, you know, 2020 really changed the internet. And so basic internet was fine. And then that's when like streaming and all that kind of stuff has hit mainstream. But when Starlink came, it really changed your ability to upload, to do video chats and all that kind of stuff. So, but it is tricky. Like in small organizations, very easy. But the hospital tried to put it in, and you know, at first it was the 10 management people that needed it, and then they were like, "It's not working. What's going on?" And they found out there was like 100 people on the server. So people's desire for good internet can become an issue for bigger systems versus smaller systems. So, and then I think the other thing is, I think some places in America are the same way with phones, but if people don't have, like, let's say YouTube, and now your workplace is giving you the ability to go on YouTube, it's a huge distraction. And so like the local school that we help with children's Bibles that our kids went for preschool, I was like, hey, we could get this for you guys if that would help for students that want to do like online learning. And they're like, you know, it would help a few students, but it would hurt our teachers. Like it would be too big. And I was like, man, I'm so glad they said that. Like they're willing to say like, it's not worth it yet until people are like ready to handle it and things like that. So Char's she just finished her 7th grade math. So she takes Florida Virtual School, even from there. So they have the Flex program, so you can do it at your own pace. It's funny because when they do the online conversations, the teacher will call up, and it's always like the time frame. She's like, "What's going on?" or "What's this?" But the kids are doing, they're doing great. It's been a little sad that all their friends have left for boarding school this year. So that's one of the things that made it easier to have this be our last year. Is like anyone that's 7th grade or older. They're like 5 closest like buddies. They either moved away or now they go off to boarding school. But the girls have done great, and I'm impressed by them all the time and stuff like that. So, yeah. What time? I've got how much more time?
15.
Okay, 15 minutes. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
Do you separate whole language, or is it all English?
Yeah, so the local language where we're at is Chichewa. There's 12 languages in the country, but Chichewa would become the national language because the first president was Chichewa speaker.
Do you speak that fluently?
No. So there was our friends that speak like 5 languages. They didn't learn Chichewa, and we're like, what's going on? Like, you speak a lot of languages. And the school system's in English. And so if you have a job, you're really good at English. Even some people without jobs are good at English. Now, most people are not good at English, but you always have then interpreters everywhere. But the bigger issue, like our friends spent 9 months doing language study, and their friends would still switch. So if you have like a recent immigrant to the United States, their English is not quite good. And so when you know 2 languages well, you'd rather speak your second language well than poorly your first language. So they really do like people to get better at the language. And that's like, it's impossible not to get better. But the language, another way to think about it is there's a movie on Netflix called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. The actors learn some Chichewa, right? Enough to where an outsider, like, they're speaking that language. Everyone there doesn't like it. They're like, they should have spoken English and done subtitles. Because they're not natural speakers. Like, you can think about like an immigrant with broken English, but looks like they're not acting like an immigrant. They're acting like a regular person. It sounds weird. And so it's like, so I think that is why very few people learn it for that reason. Yeah.
Does Catherine speak it?
So she's better than I am because with patient encounters, she gets more of it. But even there, here's the way I think about it, is like, if I could spend like 10% of a year's like income and just know the language, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Like it would be that valuable. But if I had to spend 2 years of salary, it's not worth it. So we actually get scared if people are like, we want to take 6 months to language learn because they're going to get a little bit better broken Chichewa, but they're not actually going to speak it in the end.
Well, all the years you've been there.
I know.
Do the girls speak Chichewa?
So their friends want to speak English. So there's Malawans that live where we are that don't speak Chichewa. Yeah, so it's like in a place where the business language is so strong. So the reason the schools are all in English, well, one, you're much easier to get a job in English. But two, just printing materials would be so hard. And Chichewa doesn't have academic Chichewa. So like if you were like, we're going to make a theological curriculum in Chichewa, you would have to invent new words. So like, because that's even for the Veritas materials, like it all has been translated. But like they had to think through certain concepts. And actually, people that are even teaching in English want the Chichewa book because they want to think through like it's almost like a commentary. Yeah. So I know it's counterintuitive, and if I was in your shoes, I'd be like bad missionary. You know, like that's how I view it. You know. But I would say like there are places where like that doesn't work. So this is not a every place kind of thing. If you go to a place with a major language, you're going to learn that major language. If you go to a place like our friends serve in United Arab Emirates, and like that place is like a country club, like everyone's wealthy that are Emiratis, and so like they can speak English, but they want to get inroads. They spend a lot of time. However, I would say learning a language is really hard, and so sometimes you think people are speaking it, and they're communicating, but they're not having like when you meet people that have learned English in a conversational, like smooth sense, they've worked really, really hard. Like it didn't happen in 3 months. Like they spent a lot of time doing it. So yeah, but even the singles, we've met very few people. Now, I would say when we first got there and 30 years ago, people did it. But back then, people only came that were going to serve 30 years. Not everyone served 30 years, but people, that was the plan. Because I think if you're not going to serve 10 years, it's a lot of time to spend learning the language. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, what's your plans when you return to Florida?
Yeah, so I was a school teacher. I taught high school history and a theory of knowledge class at Cocoa Beach High. And I'll just get to go back to teaching. So teaching is a fantastic because it has low barriers to reentry. And also, normal careers, if you've missed, 12 years, you're like way down on your like whatever chart. But teachers are kind of like teachers, like it's kind of a beauty thing there. Now, teaching has changed, and my friends warned me, like it's not like it used to be. So maybe a year into being here, I might not feel that way, but for now, it feels like a nice way. And then my wife, she'll do something in family medicine. She doesn't quite know yet. I think if she had her just only career plan, we'd live where there's a residency program, where there's an international program, but Brevard County doesn't have those things. So I think she's got to figure out what works best. And yeah, and also like our kids will be doing like high school activities. So what works that allows her to attend some of those things too. So
you're going to be moving back when?
Yeah, so we'll be back May of next year. Yeah, so it's both our parents. So my parents live here, and then Catherine's parents live in Merritt Island. So we have some great anchors, and that's actually been really an emotional, steadying thing, because people that have all options available, it's a hard decision of like where you're like, you know what, we're definitely coming here. It takes so many things off your like plate of having to worry about. It's free. Yeah.
How's Catherine doing from her operation?
Yeah.
Complications there, but how's she doing?
I meant to say that, so as you asked. So she, within like a week, she was back at part-time, and then within 2 weeks, she was full-time. So she got delayed here longer than she wanted to be, so she had a lot of time in the States. But like she was able to go back, and yeah. So she doesn't have to like lift heavy stuff or anything. So yeah, the kids are the ones lifting the infant formula. But yeah, so she's been great, and yeah. On that though, not the ICU has amazing things, but they really need like probably 3 more people to make it full time. And so that's a good thing. I don't know if pray for full time, but pray to work out. You have this amazing resource, but to have doctor supervision, there's not, because all the doctors are doing other things. They're not ICU doctors, but really when you have an ICU patient, it needs full-time care. And so it's turned normal flows of like work life that's sustainable to like, if you have too many patients, it's not sustainable, but you don't want to say this kid can't make it. And even they had a kid the other day where she called the one ICU doc in the country for children, and that doc like answered the phone on Easter, and she's like, you know, I lost my kid, and I just don't want any parent to lose it. You know, like, so it's like that pull can come a different factor, but now you have this thing that you can't work every hour of the day. So that's, I don't know, like those are things that they're working through at the hospital to figure out, like how do you make this a good thing without it just being a heart pull each time or something like that. Yeah. So cool. Yeah.
The cover picture with the map on it, and you had it at the beginning of there's a little map of Malawi.
Mm-hmm.
There's different colors. I was just curious what that is. Is that the flag's colors?
Oh yeah, that's the flag. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, and another, so the election season a year and a half ago, to get votes, they took off all the gas taxes, but then that meant they weren't paying for like the people that they buy the gas from. So they owed a huge debt to those people. And so when the gas went up from like the war, everyone's like, well, just get rid of the gas tax, you know, like make it go down. It's like, man, we could, like right now it's even harder to get. And so like gas in the country is like over $14 a gallon. And so like, that's another good prayer request, is just like, it cost, you know, that makes sense to everywhere, that like it causes different disruptions, it causes different things, and just that like those, I think one is the short term, but 2 is fertilizer. We're hoping by October is when like planting and people start buying fertilizer. But 3 would just be protests. I think if people understanding why things cost so much doesn't mean they don't get mad and start protesting and stuff like that. But yeah. So.
Do the patients that come to the hospital pay anything or full price or nothing?
Yeah, so back in the 1970s, they created religious hospitals, which is about a third of the country, and then the rest of them were like public hospitals. And unfortunately, most of the public hospitals cannot charge, but the benefit for the religious like hospitals were they were allowed to charge. Now the government doesn't give as much money to the religious hospitals for that reason, but I'm always like, they just need to allow everyone to charge. So everyone pays a little bit up front, and then it depends on what you get treated for. So those are also limitations with all kinds of care. So like a lab test, certain things you have to think, can this patient pay for it? And like, so in America, Catherine's going to be like, what will the insurance do? And I'm fighting like insurance companies. But over there, it's more, I don't want to give this patient a bill if the outcome is low. And so there's a lot of things you may not do if it's low chance of it working or things like that. So everything is like, I mean, not everything, but most things are subsidized. And even the surgeries, there's a program that helps pay. So like when patients come in with a surgery, they pay a little bit. I mean, when I say a little bit, it's decent for them. So it might be $50. But then this company will pay like $200 to help like fund those things. And so almost everything is not full price, but the patients are paying a little bit for everything. So, and we think paying a little bit not only helps fund it, but it's like a positive like principle. But it does make, when you're having to decide that, can I do this lab or can we do this or that, it makes it a little complicated. Yeah.
Is there any effect of the famine in Kenya?
So we, food-wise, we're in a really good place. But yeah, just because there's a famine in one place, it doesn't always hit. So we did have a regional one, maybe 2017, but it was, I wouldn't even say it was, 2001 is one of the few like drastic famines for Malawi. And they do pretty good with food, and our rainy season's been fantastic. It's more next year if fertilizer doesn't come in, that could be an issue. But that would be a year from April before you'd even start hitting that. This year, even our food price is so low that the farmers are like, oh man, like we're losing money. And that's why it's so hard to get food right, is you need to incentivize people to farm at scale. But then if you bring the price up too much, it's tricky. Yeah.
So you're thinking about gas being over $14 an hour a gallon. What's the average wage for Malawi worker?
Yeah, so that's the other hard part is like, so the currency sometimes will get out of whack. And meaning the kwacha to the dollar is not where it should be. And so electronically it's one rate, but then like people negotiate different rates with like physical rates, or if you're a big business or connected to the government. And so basically it's more than double. So your electronic rate is 1,700 to the dollar, but your physical rate is 3,700 to the dollar. So the wages have been staying at that 1,700 rate, whereas imports for over a year have been at that $3,700 rate. And so that has created these distortions. But so for a while we had the like 1970s gas lines because they were just keeping gas too low and they weren't buying, like, but then they said, you know what, we're for gas gonna make you pay what would be that rate. And so that's another issue. Now, when they devalue the currency, it doesn't solve it, because to fix inflation, people just take a haircut. Like, so you will take a 20% loss in like your purchasing power when they do a devaluation. So the normal person on the street, even my neighbor, like got a PhD in education, teach at the education college, he doesn't want a devaluation, even though like our friend, a new family got there to build a new surgical building. It's a nightmare to buy imports right now, and it's almost impossible. So from a business side, you really want the currency to be in line, but the politics are like, don't do it. Like, just keep it separate. And so, but then the politicians find a way, like it's very easy to steal money that way, because if the bank, stealing money is the wrong way, but like benefit while other people are not getting the benefit. Yeah, because they will get the physical money. Well, it can be electronic even, but they'll get the ability to purchase at the good rate while everyone else is paying a different rate. And so there's all these negative incentives, but we've never seen it in our time there. It lasts a while. Normally it lasts a month and then they fix it. But they've been able to maintain inflation being less by doing that. But I think these gas prices might force it. Yeah, but we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. But it hurts, like even formula and all that kind of stuff. The costs are a lot more. So, but we're getting hurt so much less than like other people on that we just, yeah. You kind of focus on the small things you can control versus the big. Yeah. Sorry if that was too technical or too currency-wise. Yeah. Any other questions? No. I'm going to share a story. So when we were there in COVID, a lot of people, they would get a letter or like an email like every week that would say, we have one more flight, but there would be a new flight like every week, right? And so people are like, this is our last flight, we just need to leave. So like a lot of our like missionary friends that were just friends and colleagues were like, we're gonna leave. And like, so when it was all over and they came back, there's just this moment of like, man, we thought you were like here to like stay through hard times. And then like, I think it's 1 Samuel 30, where David is fighting, he's actually on the Philistine side. And then the Philistines say, we don't trust you. So they send him back. But then when he goes back, all the wives have been taken, all their stuff have been plundered. They go and chase down the people that plundered the Amalekites. And some of the guys don't have the strength to fight the whole fight. But when they get back, he says, you know what? They did what they could. They get honor too. And it was one of these like things that really helped me, this idea of capacity, of different people have different abilities to do different things. And for us, it's both ways. Like we have people that just have so much energy and just go at like twice the pace of like a normal person. And instead of feeling like inferior about it, it's just realizing like there are people that have that ability. And then for people that have like less energy, as long as they meet the like minimum standards, it's like, okay, everyone has their own like capacity on how they can do it. everyone had their own reasons for like saying we just need to like leave or like flee, and yeah, I don't know. I just thought about that, and yeah. So, but yeah, I think I might be a little short, but.
Thank you.
Oh, we have
one more question.
Where did they flee to because it was worldwide?
I know, that's what, like, I think that's part of where I was like, because we didn't even have lockdown there. Like, we could socialize. I was like, it's better here. But what did happen was we lost the ability to have life flights. So if, like, let's say our kids get hurt or whatever, get bit by a snake, we would fly to South Africa. In those moments, you didn't have that possibility. So you kind of were like stuck in the like 1900s of medicine versus like, so I think that was on a lot of people's brains of like, well, even though my social life might be worse here, I have modern, and I think in the early days, like I was scared too, like we didn't know what it was going to be. And so I think like the fear is like, well, I just need to go where things are easy. And so, yeah.
Let me pray for you here, and we'll close out. And he's not going to be able to stay with us for lunch, so if you want to talk to him more, make sure you do that between services.
Yeah, sorry, I made lunch plans before you, yeah.
Let's pray. Father, I thank you for David and for Catherine and for their ministry there. Lord, I thank you for this new family and how you've provided for this transition period. Father, I just pray for continued guidance as they finish strong here, Father, over the next year, Father. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, David.